Hello everyone, welcome back to vidIQ interviews, where we take a video creator from the YouTube world and talk about their YouTube journey along with anything else we want to discuss. And there will be plenty to discuss in this live stream with River Caraba. Now, some of you may remember him from the Friday casual chat we did around about a month ago, but I brought him back for the full-on interview where we're going to be delving into his channel. And if any of you were on the Friday live stream a couple of weeks ago, he had some awesome answers to some of your questions, and hopefully we'll do that at the end of the interview. But first of all, welcome to you, River Caraba.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
You're more than welcome. So we're just going to quickly introduce your channel, which is the Analytics Guy. And currently you have 162 subscribers at 1,600 views. And some of you may be thinking, that's quite a small channel, but we're going to get into that in a lot more detail soon. But first of all, River, let's just jump straight into this. Tell us about your YouTube origin story.
Yeah, so I've been probably an active creator, is what I would call it, on YouTube for a little over 2 years now. I work in the marketing advertising space, work for a huge multinational advertising agency. YouTube really started for me as the nerdiest origin possible. It was to just get more data. I posted a video, and through work, I obviously work on the back end of YouTube buys and all kinds of different advertising things that are going on in the background. And I said, you know what, this is kind of cool. I wonder what would happen if I just post a video. And so I started posting just kind of random videos on my YouTube channel that was part of my Google profile, and I saw the views coming in, and I got somewhat addicted to seeing that information flowing in. And so it turned into more and more, turned into a vlogging channel, turned into all kinds of things with my wife and I. And I ended up just really taking it and pursuing it hardcore. And from there, we started this second channel just a few months back as a way to share some of the information that I have from kind of the, let's call it, insider's perspective of what's going on the back end of YouTube, especially the conversations that are happening with brands, because some of the biggest brands in the world I have the pleasure of working with. And I think there's a lot of conversations that are being had with those brands that creators can benefit from. And so that's kind of just the brief synopsis of how I came to be. There's tons of in between that I'm sure we'll dive into here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that the YouTube expert outside of YouTube certificate thing is certainly something that we're going to be talking about. And I know somebody's already asked that question, but we will answer that properly soon. So as I say, as the live stream comes in, folks, if you want to post any of your questions, I will certainly add them to the ones that I have of my own. But just to talk a little bit more about the Analytics Guy specifically as a channel, and maybe you can bring in your previous channel as well, River, but who is your target audience, your value proposition, or to put it another way, who should be watching and why?
Yeah, I think the any creator can benefit from the Analytics Guy. Small businesses can benefit from the Analytics Guy. Entrepreneurs, even larger brands. Some of the biggest brands in the world are absolutely terrible at the SEO strategies that they deploy on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it, Pinterest even. The Analytics Guy was meant to be somewhat of an experiment in the beginning, because let's be honest, YouTube is very saturated with the gurus, right? I don't pretend to be one of those people, but I have a knowledge set and a skill set that I think that people can benefit from. And what I really like to do on my channel is dive in tactically. This is how you do it. One of the major pillars of YouTube is how-to content. And it's one thing to tell people what they need to focus on, but how to focus on that is really important, right? So that's where I try to come in. I think my value proposition over time is going to be my perspective on things, but those are the people that I like to talk to specifically. If you're looking for entertaining type content, I try to make it entertaining just with my audience, but this is very much people who are serious about growing, people who are serious, want those insider tips and tricks. I have nothing but admiration and respect for people who I would consider are adjacently in my space, the Tim Schmoyers, the Daryl Eves, the Roberto Blakes, Brian G. Johnson. All those guys are fantastic. I don't look at myself as an or. I look at myself as an and. I think all of us together can provide, and if people are following each other, we can provide an insane amount of value to those
Absolutely.
creators.
Yeah. You mentioned there briefly that you feel as if big business still has perhaps a naive attitude of, I just don't understand YouTube. Could you expand a little bit more on that? Like, because we have individual YouTubers who get YouTube and have built big channels, but then on the flip side, I've seen this myself where I've spoken to businesses and I've said, do you have a YouTube channel? And it's like, well, we kind of have one. We set one up a couple of years ago, but we don't use that. What's your experience of how businesses use YouTube?
It really depends on the size of the brand. I think let's start with the largest brands in the world.
Yeah.
It's just a thing that's really easily overlooked or missed. They may focus on the paid strategy of a buy that starts at its very base as an organic post on YouTube, for instance. I'm of the belief that let's set that video up to grow legs and do its own work all by itself on top of the paid things that a brand may want to do. So it's just sometimes overlooked. While a small business that is, let's call them scrappy by nature, they may do the homework to make sure that the videos are tagged up and all the metadata is exactly the way it needs to be, just because it's in their nature. However, they may, ignorance is bliss, right? You may not know that certain things exist or certain things that you have to do. So that way on our channel, we can provide that type of information. So I don't think it's purposeful. I don't think there's arrogance involved of like, well, I don't need to deal with the metadata. I think it's just maybe an oversight.
Yeah. Okay, so as we were saying, you have these informed knowledge of how sometimes people outside of YouTube interact with the YouTube space, and maybe to understand that more, there is something called the YouTube Certified Expert, which you are. And I was just wondering if for anybody who has no idea what this is, that the concept of being a YouTube expert, it's not something that's just you're given a label by some arbitrary person, or it's an actual certificate, and there's research and study and exams that go on behind it. So if you could just explain what it is and how you become a certified expert.
Yeah. So originally, YouTube had 4 areas of certification that you could get. There's content ownership, asset monetization, and channel growth, along with brand and content strategy. Recently, YouTube has decided to reprogram some of their certificates. So everyone who's certified right now, like I am in brand and content strategy, will remain certified until they sunset that certification, but they're not having anyone re-up their certification on that, just because, like I said, they're moving in a different direction. It's an application process, so you have to apply within the Creator Academy. They have a section for YouTube certifications, so you can definitely go there and check that out. Fill out the application if that's something you're interested in. But in its most basic sense, the YouTube certification is the exam and YouTube certification to say that this is one of our experts. This is a professional who has the training and can provide information to others with, let's call it, YouTube's blessing with this certification. Both individuals and companies can get certified. So if you want your whole organization to get certified, basically all that has to happen is I think it's like 1 in 3 or 75% of your company has to be certified individually for your company to get certified as a whole. But it's just a way that YouTube can have experts out in the field to help out others. Now, with that comes accountability. If a certified expert is giving, let's call it, bad advice or just outright wrong advice, we're held accountable for that, and could lose certification or be subject to reprimand for that. And I think that's just a fantastic thing, because there are individuals like myself who are out here just purely to help people. We want to help others succeed, but there's a little bit of accountability involved. And of course, things change over time, so you can't expect that you published a video 2 years ago and you're a certified expert and the rules changed, thus that video is out of date. I think that's up for YouTube's interpretation, of course, of no, he's not purposely trying to deceive someone, which is, I think, the essence of what they're trying to do, that no one is purposefully trying to deceive anyone.
Would you recommend taking becoming a YouTube expert to benefit an individual's YouTube channel, or do you think it's more something aligned with, as we say, people who are consulting in YouTube and working with businesses? And is there any cost attached? I think I forgot to ask that.
Great. No cost attached. The application process, they are rather selective. So given that I have my agency background, I'm not naive to think that may have got me approved to get the certification process. So that I definitely think that was part of it. But the same modules that are involved in the certification process, obviously the exam you have to pass, I believe it's a 75% or higher. So the it's pretty low, but the exam is actually rather difficult. Most of the questions are circumstantial type situations. So in this circumstance, what do you feel? But you can go in, use all the study materials for the Creative Academy. So even if you don't get approved for the certification process, look at all the study materials, because absolutely, to answer your question, a certification will help someone's channel growth or their goals on YouTube specifically. Which is the same thing for the Facebook Blueprint platform. If you want to get AdWords certified in Google, which is how actually you buy ads on YouTube. So, it's just a better solution.
So the process of the certification would almost be like turning YouTube into an education, where you're learning almost a theory behind what you should be doing practically. So there is value in that. Just one question: I've noticed at least one cat in the background. Is this part of your crew and who are there? I'm always interested in what goes on in the background on interviews, as there could be chaos and
always
what's going on.
Yeah, my wife is home today too, and we have a couple cats. So. Definitely a dog person myself, but we have cats. So.
I am too, but yeah.
They're lovely. They're lovely.
Yeah, just take too much to look after, especially when you work from home. Okay, let's try and keep this on topic. So you have worked with advertisers and are part of an agency. So I wanted to ask this question about how YouTube treats these two different entities in terms of advertisers and video creators, because ultimately everybody's wanting the same thing, to have more reach, more views, more exposure. Is there a difference in a relationship between advertisers and video creators with YouTube? And are there any tips that you can give to individual creators that they can maybe think more like advertisers, which would help them with their own channel growth, if there are any correlation there?
Yeah, so I'll break your question down a little bit. So
Sure.
The first one is, do they speak to advertisers and creators differently? The answer is yes. I think that's not probably new or surprising information to most creators. I do think that we are moving in the right direction with Susan's blog post recently about an increase in an effort towards transparency. And then obviously Casey's video sitting down with the execs at YouTube. I think everyone is speaking the right way, in my opinion. It's exactly the direction we want to keep moving. However, I do have privileged information with Google that I'm under NDA and I can't talk about or whatever publicly, but it does divulge information to advertisers that would absolutely be pertinent to creators. Which is why on my channel, I love to push that envelope. I'm not going to violate those terms, but if you think that I don't have videos created that are just ready to push live whenever, YouTube decides to, think, that's definitely something that I have. But I think the movement towards transparency, continue to have these conversations. The question that you asked is, can creators benefit? How can they get thinking more like an advertiser? An advertiser, they have a unique proposition that they are trying to get their message out, right? And through a targeted ad by most, right? Which I think most of us, if we had a very targeted message catered to us about something that we care about, I think we become less upset being marketed to, right? Because it's something we care about. If we think about it with that lens, and we think about how those advertising dollars are the things that pay creators through the partner program, YouTube is definitely incentivized to keep that money coming and keep those advertisers happy so they can continue spending, by default supporting creators, right? So I think they have a unique problem, and there's no doubt that it's very complex and it's very difficult to manage. And there's value in having conversations somewhat in silos just to manage some of those expectations that things don't get out of hand. But I would make a call to YouTube and say, please, there is information that you are withholding from creators right now that is absolutely essential to help everyone achieve the goals. You know, having brand safe material, keeping certain types of behavior, or I think the term they're using now is bad actors. If they communicate the same things that they are to brands, to creators, then creators will see the incentive to not pursue those types of things, the drama, the big things that they're trying to curb, because they are working towards how do we prevent those types of things on YouTube. And, you know, like I mentioned earlier, some of the certifications as to like how advertisers function, the mechanics, the nuts and bolts, helps a creator think more like an advertiser. And I think that's my perspective for both of my channels is, you know, it's fun and interesting because I look at it through a different lens. You know, I don't identify with the term YouTuber. You know, my full-time job is at the agency, to which I love doing that, and will never likely go to a full-time creator status, just because that's if I have a competitive advantage, that is it, that I am on the inside. And so if I was to remove myself from that word, thus goes my competitive advantage. So, you know, I think that that's a way you can help think more like an advertiser, and at least just empathy, you know, because I've been on the other side of planning influencer buys as well. You know, what influencer do we want to work with, this brand, and how we talk about that. I've got some videos on my channel about, you know, how to get brand deals, which is oversaturated on YouTube now, but I'm coming from a place like I've been on the side of picking creators before, and the criteria that I'm using to decide, there's no doubt that there's a ton of people on YouTube that have had many brand deals that they have developed a method that works well for them. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just providing the information that's speaking the brand's language. This is how you resonate with a brand. And so if you provide information that doesn't make sense to them, or it's not what they're looking for, it's more likely that they won't pick you. So why not speak their language and increase your chances of getting selected?
Yeah. And I would say, just thinking about the advertiser and creator duality, this was a monster of YouTube's own making when they opened up the partner program to everybody. Oh, about 4 or 5 years ago now. Before that, it was very restrictive to get in there with, like, YouTube would invite you rather than you just applying when you hit 10,000 views. And as you say, it's in everybody's interest for these advertisers to be around and to be able to fund video creators, I guess, indirectly through everybody being on the platform. Do you think that you saying that YouTube's communication is starting to improve? Do you think there are any avenues, and like you say, you sometimes have this information which you have to sit on, you can't release it until it becomes available to everybody. And let me say, when I've been watching the Analytics Guy channel, River, you are always straight out there with that information, and I've certainly found out new stuff from visiting your channel. So that's a small plug there to make sure that if you want to be on the inside of YouTube knowledge when it's available to everybody, please do subscribe to his channel. And I've completely lost the train of my thought. I think it was I always ask these 2-minute long questions and I forget where I am. So yeah, I think the question is, how do you think that YouTube could further enhance their communication with the video creators?
Yeah, you know, the YouTube, as you can imagine, has a horde of sales teams that manage brands' accounts. They have account managers for some of the bigger creators here on the platform that have, you know, one-on-one interactions and a person they can pick up the phone and call. I think that if we have any smaller YouTubers here, we've all had questions that we can't find the answers to. And so we click the help button and submit a question and may or may not ever hear back again. So I think a continued and renewed effort to not only be just communicative in when people are submitting questions, but also if they are communicating some of those things to larger creators outside of tests, because of course you want to manage tests with a small group, you just continue the conversation. You know, we've seen recently the tweets, you know, are coming up and more prevalent. That's fantastic. Yeah. Let's continue doing that. You know, this whole notion around transparency and getting YouTube to even acknowledge that they have a transparency problem a year ago was not happening. The fact that they have acknowledged that now, I think, is a huge step forward. Now we still have to pay that off, right? We still have to do it. We can't just talk about it, but it's humongous. And I think it's definitely in the right direction. And just blog posts, tweets, direct conversations, heck, even working with people like the analytics guy or some of those other creators I talked about earlier to help release some of that information. That would be fantastic, because then the optics of that is a creator looks and goes, holy moly, I want to be one of the people that YouTube reaches out to help get the information out there. You know, it comes down to trust. YouTube has a trust problem right now, especially from creators and honestly from brands, right? Because we've seen them retract some ad dollars as well. So, like I said earlier, there's no doubt it's a tough problem to solve, very convoluted, but I, for one, am confident that they'll do it. It just probably won't be very graceful because it's really complicated.
And it will take a long time, as we know with YouTube. As you say, there's so many cogs that turn and wheels that need to roll before YouTube reaches a decision that they can, I guess, publicly announce. There was a word there that you used, which was trust, and there's a conversation going on in the chat here about would it be an idea to segregate YouTube even more? We have a YouTube kids section, but what about a YouTube 18 plus section? Not for what you might be thinking, but more like material whereby it's maybe not appropriate for all ages, but it still allows that content to be on YouTube and be monetized. I think that's a question that's generally going around in the chat. Has that ever come up in sort of the advertiser brand side of things? Like, should we have more segmentation in YouTube content?
Yeah, I mean, great point. And whoever is engaging in that conversation, I think you're thinking in exactly the right way. I think all of us are trying to think creatively about how to come up with solutions. I think that YouTube likely would go down that road in terms of, you know, we don't want to stifle the sharing of information, but especially, you know, hate speech or, you know, different, you know, things that they decide are not acceptable on the platform. Would that just be removed entirely? Is that called censorship? I don't know. That's for them to decide. Would they have a whole section where someone could go just to watch that material and have, you know, some sort of delineation as when you pass this point and you have to verify, kind of like if you go to, I'm making this up, Budweiser's website, it says, are you 21 years old? Like, verify your age, you know? So literally anyone could type in an age that qualifies them or not, but there is a disclaimer that says that something from here. I think it's a great idea. I'm sure it's super complicated on YouTube's end, because just like now where we're seeing videos get demonetized or not, or back and forth, what happens when a video just automatically gets kicked into that mature area or something, but it's not supposed to? I'm sure there'll be issues with that, you know? So maybe that is an approach that they're taking, like, well, we don't want to break things further. But I think it's a fantastic idea. You know, how can we continue to do that? But I think some of the naysayers of that will likely say, well, what? Like, we're going to have 14 different verticals of YouTube.
Exactly,
You know, is that besides the point? And is that from a business perspective viable for YouTube? You know, those are the questions that they're likely considering.
Yeah. Good answer. Okay, and as I say, keep those questions coming in, and we will be leaving some time at the end of the live stream for some more hardcore Q&A. But moving on to your channel a bit more specifically now, River, you started the Analytics Guy channel. Was it about 6 months ago, I think, when you first started publishing, and then ramped it up once we moved into 2018? Would it be fair to say that? Yeah,
actually, funny story. So I love the YouTube conferences. I love them so much. I have not been to I can't. VidCon, thank you. It was right there. It was on my tongue. I couldn't say it. I have not been to VidCon, but I love the conferences where it's creator focused, like enriching the creator education. I was last September. I was at CVX Live in Salt Lake City. Highly recommend that event, put on by some fantastic people. I plan to go again this year. It's not too far from Oregon where I live, but I have a group of people, creators that we stay very close with, and we were all actually staying together in a house just for fun and going to the conference. And every night we were having these like sessions in the living room where I was turning my laptop around and talking about different metrics and things. And, the reception of that information was really great. And I was very fortunate that some of those people took my advice, deployed it, and oh my God, it worked. So by the end of the weekend, I was getting a large amount of pressure from my peers going, you need to start a channel or like start talking to somebody about sharing this information because it's really good. And I was, very humbled and flattered by that. Kind of hemmed and hawed. I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I want to do that. There's a lot of accountability involved in that. Yeah. So eventually I came back and I officially started the channel. Didn't necessarily publish anything right away. Started working on some branding. What would this look like? What would I want it to be named? Everything to my channel to date has been calculated. By trade, I didn't mention this. I'm an analyst. So I manage a marketing science team on the West Coast. So really high-speed guys. I love my team, but it's trained me to think very objectively on things and look at and analyze. So the name of my channel is very calculated and a lot of research gone into that. I've tried some thumbnail testing, even the channel art, all of it is calculated and testing. And a lot of those tests are going on. I don't declare a lot of those tests right now, but I encourage every creator to come up with things that they want to test. Rob, one of the things that you did a while back that was a fantastic test was with the fast forward test, with the watch time accrued. That type of stuff is fantastic. When I saw you post that video and we talked about it in our last stream, I was just so jazzed for you because that is stuff that people aren't doing, but the curiosity, that's what keeps me going in the morning. And so, yeah, just started to develop posting videos. Sometimes I batch shoot them. Sometimes, to your point, if I get privy to information, I'm try to be very quick to put out that content. But it all comes from the viewers. It all comes from the audience. If I observe a trend or a series of questions, I'll make a video about that because I know that the area is saturated. How to get views on YouTube? Like, I'll probably never make that video because that's not my value proposition. All of the things that other people mention in the videos that they have of, how to get views, like that, those niche things, how do you do one of those things that they do? That's kind of where I live. The analytics guy is not meant to be just YouTube. I'm an expert in Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest and all these other things, search, so it's ambiguous. The analytics of what, right? That's on purpose. That I don't want to be pigeonholed to just be YouTube, or just Facebook or what have you, because everybody is trying to do different things. They have different goals. And my mission is to give them the information, the how to, and then how you choose to apply that is on you. I'm going to give you my advice and my perspective. Sometimes recently I've put out a couple of videos that are a little more ranty in terms of my perspective on things, which I hope over time becomes currency, right? People trust me by applying the skills and knowledge that I bestow. And then from that comes trust. And so when I give my perspective on something, people view that as valuable. So that's kind of where it is and how it came about in a really long-winded way.
Almost as long as my questions. As we said at the top of the show, you have about 160 subscribers now, 1,600 views. So we would still, YouTube would still class your channel as maybe a small channel, and I'm sure many of the people listening to this live stream or in a replay now will probably have their own sort of positive stories and negative stories about being a small YouTuber. One of the questions I want to ask you is what are the top 3 things that are on your mind as a YouTuber at this stage in your journey?
Yeah, I think that, and I don't know if we talked about this in our last stream, so I might preempt it a little bit here, but the subscriber number is arbitrary. It could be just a method of exposure. People just don't know about you yet, not because you're not producing great videos. And this applies to any creator who's watching this right now. my knowledge set, my skill set professionally has nothing to do with whether I even have a YouTube channel or not, right? So that's how arbitrary that number is. Now, I think there is some validation that people apply to seeing a channel that's got millions of subscribers and whatnot, and that's fantastic. But your worth, my knowledge, your knowledge has nothing to do with that subscriber number. Now, we hope to see that accumulate up over time as people find us and trust us and listen to us and, you know, engage in conversation. You know, it's all about the conversation. Then those numbers go up. You know, what I'm focusing on as a small YouTuber, as you said, for me, I'm a creator who really enjoys the video platform, that has a set of skills and knowledge that I just like sharing. I don't stress myself out of like, oh, I got to get a video out today, or I got to get a video to, you know, it's about quality content and something that you're proud of. My most recent video, I said, you know, if someone put your work on the front page of the newspaper and held it up in a room and said, whose work is this? Are you proud of your work? To raise your hand and go, yeah, that's mine. You know, if you're not, if you don't feel good about that work, I would caution you about putting that out there. When my wife and I were vlogging, we successfully earned the daily vlogging for a year merit badge, if you will. We went and did that, and you learn so much. And in the beginning, creatively, you're very stimulated. You know, oh, I got to come up with this, and you have to get scrappy. But over time, at least in my interpretation, there's people who do daily all the time, and they're animals. They're killing it in the game, you know. But for me, I was the term that I used was creatively neutered. I couldn't come up with content that I was most proud of every single day. That's just my creative styles. But I just don't. Most people worry about how frequently am I posting, and I'm letting my viewers down. But especially if you're really stressing out over this, I am willing to bet the vast majority of your viewers would rather just you post something when you're ready and able and it's good, rather than something random that is, you know, half put together and you're not proud of it. You know, there's definitely been videos in the history of my channels that I'm not proud of those videos, but so that's where I'm coming from. But, you know, people get really concerned about that. That I just really try not to focus too much on.
Yeah, you have preempted one of my questions, and I was trying to paraphrase this all into one sentence to try and really emphasize it to all these video creators out there, and I think I got to a point where I said, and I'm sure you said it in your original video, that people shouldn't assign a value or anyone else's value to a number, a subscriber count, a view count. That's, at the end of the day, that's a result of something technical, some algorithm, but the value that you have in any video should far outstrip, as you say, the desire to just create content for content's sake, which you're not proud of at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, no one tells your story better than you.
Yeah,
no one in the world is posed to tell that story better than you. So you have to keep that in mind, and that you're the expert in your life, right? So no matter what you're doing, if it's how-to or gaming or reviews or an analytics guy channel, it doesn't matter. You know, you do what's right by you. I don't think in the history of forever we're truly gonna curb trolls and people that are just saying nasty things. The first time that I ever got a troll comment, I remember turning to my wife and being like, oh my God, I have to stop, you know, or something like that. Yeah, I remember it affected me. And anymore, it really doesn't. It doesn't at all. The trolls don't really bother me. You know, some people get attention. Tim Schmoyer's even made videos about how trolls help creators.
Yeah, I agree.
Which there's a lot of truth to that in terms of creating metadata. Now, I'm not encouraging and never encourage people to troll other people. I mean, I think we need more positivity in our world lately, but, you know, if you really have to have thick skin, you know, you spend all this time working on the video and it's perfect and you're so proud of it. And then someone comments something nasty and it crushes you the first time, you know, but over time you learn that this is my thing. Like, it plays by your rules. It plays by whatever you decide you want to do, and telling your story and your truth. And that's the bottom line. And it doesn't matter what anybody says or thinks. The fact that you're willing to share is fantastic. You know, we have I can't even imagine what the world would be like today without the YouTube and people sharing their stories. You know, back to the earliest times people have had around the campfire or whatever, you know, story sharing and things like that. And now it's evolved to this point where we have now. And, you know, it's just a fantastic, beautiful thing. I love people's stories. That's, you know, second to probably helping people on the Analytics Guy channel. I love people comment, and I will go into their channel and I'll look at their videos. I'll watch a bunch of them sometimes, like pending my time is at a finite. But if I have a minute, I'll go in and I'll watch people's channels. I'll comment on their videos, and it's really funny because people respond and be like, "Oh my God, thanks for watching my video." And I'm like, "It was great," you know? So it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. This is a bit of a tease trailer for a video I'm working on for vidIQ, but I've tried to switch around the question of how do I get more views to what does a view want from you, and the first three values are value, impact, and engagement. And if you're at that point where people are invested enough to provoke a response in some way, yes, trolling is bad, but at least in some way you've affected them enough to have some opinion on your content, and usually the positive comments far outweigh the negative ones, and
Agreed.
at that point you're forming a community. And as you say, when you get to know people on a more personal level, like yourself, River, and I'm seeing plenty of regular live streamers in here as well, that's where it takes YouTube to a level that's far beyond views or subscribers or even monetizing the content. It's making an impact and changing people's lives, which I think is the essence of what any video creator or in any art form should be doing. And then the residuals are all these, I guess, the fame and the glory type of things. So
yeah, and your idea around turning views, you know, around watch time, you know, getting a view, clicking play, but then deciding maybe you want to peace out because this isn't for you, but accumulating that watch time, people watching all of your videos, things like that. I think you're spot on. That's exactly the way you should think about it. What's the value? Why should I keep watching? Right. In everybody's videos, depending on what they're making and why, has a different value proposition. You know, people don't watch Casey Neistat because they want to learn how to do stuff. They want to be entertained. You know, he is a master entertainer on the platform, you know, so that's why that's his value proposition. You know, he has some great things to say too, don't get me wrong, but like, you know, that's that it's all about that value. Exactly. I think you're exactly spot on.
So what lessons would you say you've learned so far about creating a channel from scratch?
Oh man, so many, having so many thoughts flood to my brain right now. You know, I think vision is what are we trying to do? You know, I'm a measurement guy in my professional life and on YouTube here, obviously. So what's your objective? What are you trying to do? Right. And everything that you do is in service of that. You know, some people call it a manifesto, some people call it a mission statement, you know, whatever you're trying to do, what's your objective? And as long as you're striving towards that, and it's okay to change that objective over time, but everything, like I said earlier, the channel art, the name, the videos that I produce, is it in service of that? So first, like the vision, what am I trying to do? The second thing is around time. I think people don't realize as a consumer of video, you click play if and when it hits your subscription feed. Whole nother topic for another time, but you know, you're just watching, and if done right, you are left wanting. Man, I want more of that. You know, but people don't realize from a creator's perspective, and they see that and they go, "Ooh, I can do that," but they don't realize how much time it's going to take, and especially now with the new partner program requirements, how much time you're going to grind this out before there's no benefit, you know? I would always encourage people to be a creator because you have a desire and a passion around these things, not for financial gain, you know? I think that comes with time, and there's a million different ways that you can diversify yourself to make it, I wouldn't even say lucrative, but I would say financially beneficial. But most creators don't hit that mark for a really long time. And so if you are passionate about those things, you got to have that. So that's kind of like a pseudo to time is passion. You have to have that passion in order to do what you do. You know, when it's 2 a.m. and you're finishing editing your video because you agreed with a collaboration to have it done by a certain day, you start to question yourself of like, what am I doing? You know, but if you have that passion, it's not an issue. So probably vision, time, passion is the things that you have to focus on, or at least think about when you get started.
I'm sure everybody in this chat appreciates how long it takes to make a video versus how long it takes to watch. I usually go along the lines of about an hour or 2 hours per minute of content, and the analytics guy is obviously not your main focus. So how much time do you on an average basis commit to the channel?
You know, I think the analytics guy was, like I said, it's kind of a wonderful experiment still to this day, and probably will be indefinitely. Having daily vlogged for a year, we did 365 days. We produced something like 378 videos. So sometimes more than one a day. I know exactly what it takes to produce videos. And I'm not pretending that my videos that I did at that time were the best thing since sliced bread or anything, but the analytics guy, the setup that I use is essentially a live streaming setup. So using tools like OBS to bring in animations and change screens or whatever, because I'm recording that all at once. And we've seen like Daryl Eves change to this kind of setup because it pulls out all the stops of editing. There's some things that are going to happen in post-production, just a fact. But for me, it was all about how can I minimize, if I'm going to have a second channel, right? I know that the first channel I'm not posting probably as often as I'd like anyway. So how do I be as efficient as possible? So I did a ton of research on how can I get capture cards for cameras and have a good quality video feed on top of all the things that I want to show, because so much on the analytics guy is literally showing how to do things. It's not just me as a talking head most of the time. So innovating there and figuring that out has been so key. My videos for the analytics guy do not take very long to produce compared to another video that I would use using my old method, if you will. So that has allowed me to produce a lot more content in even one sitting. You know, I've got videos about batch shooting and what that is and why it's beneficial. And my setup right now, I can do the research ahead of time to what I want to talk about. I don't script out my content, but I more or less have bullet talking points. Like these are the things I want to hit, more or less just so I can deliver something coherent to the viewers. But then it just allows me to produce videos at speed that otherwise would be really hard to produce. Because, you know, again, earlier, like certified expert, we have the burden of the truth. You know, we have to make sure what we say. I take that very seriously. And so I do a ton of research that goes into my videos, you know, and there are videos 100% where I'm just passing along information. YouTube's done the hard work and have some sort of help page that literally spells out exactly what you do. So I'll show it. People learn different ways. Sometimes visual is a lot better, more than reading. I'm one of those people personally. So I just will produce a video that shows somebody exactly how to do something and where to go to get more help, because that's the problem. They don't know how to do something. They don't know where to find it. And so I can help them out with that.
Cool. Okay, we're going to look at your channel a little bit now, but it's funny, through the conversations that we've been having, you've more or less answered some of these questions, but if there's any more points you want to add, like when I was looking at the channel, and the channel banner that says the analytics guy, and as a new visitor to the channel, I was thinking, well, the analytics of what? But you've answered that in that it's not just analytics about YouTube, it's analytics about wherever your analytical interests take you. So I assume that you're going to keep it that way. Is there anything to add to my comments there?
You know, I think over time, you know, just like, you know, on a masthead on a website that changes like the featured whatever, that's something that I want to start exploring, is, you know, if maybe for this week is all about, you know, we have different awareness months in culture, right? Especially in the States where I am. And what I do, this is Instagram week on the analytics guy, and I'll change my banner to be that, you know, or different things. You know, I think the learning bit is a big part of what I do, which is why we started that way. but I did not want to pigeonhole myself into any particular thing, because I think I can provide more value to that, and I would be really selling myself short in terms of those. I've done really heavy YouTube focused videos right now because arguably people on YouTube are looking for YouTube related content. Right? Weird. But YouTube as a platform is just so much better to serve as a medium to get any kind of information, really. So yeah, that's why I pretty much like a lot of my channel art and videos have been focused the way they have so far.
And live stream update: the cat is now photo bombing River in the background there.
Right.
So now there's already a strong sense of branding and consistency, like in the thumbnails. There's like definitely a black theme going on, and the usual reactions and curious looking at things, and some words in the thumbnails. I was just thinking, as perhaps the analytics guy, have you thought more about adding certain analytical shapes to your thumbnails, like graphs, or the classic green arrow, which people say actually draws viewers to thumbnails? Any thoughts there on development?
100%. So recently I put out a video with a topic of some analytics updates, and I tested out putting like a chart on
yes, it was just a chart, but not you, wasn't it? I remember that one.
Correct. And so what tons of research that has been published across different platforms and things is actually faces do really well in thumbnails. So for a tip for everyone else on the stream, take that into account. You know, some people aren't comfortable putting their face on a thumbnail, and I completely understand that, and don't feel like you're going to be set up for failure for not doing that. But it's just kind of my style. I like the darker because it contrasts with the majority of people that use YouTube in the white, not the dark mode. If I see data that says a lot of people are moving to the new dark mode, I might change that, because obviously then it would blend in more. But I like the dark because it's contrasty, you know? So that was tactical. I like to have my faces in them because of that research that I just talked about. And honestly, and this is my personal opinion, this is nothing against Rob, like your stuff you're doing, like I just think that it's sort of superficial, the like analytic, like I think it's cheesy personally. So, and that's just my preference and my style. Maybe I'll test it one day, a green arrow or whatever it is. But I feel like it things in the background, if it's done incorrectly, it makes it too busy. And that, again, that's just my opinion. And just my style, how I set myself apart.
Yep, absolutely. Something that I wouldn't usually suggest to most channels, but obviously you've already collaborated with vidIQ and you're giving fantastic advice, certainly on your channel. Have you been trying to collaborate with other channels and creators in your area, maybe to increase your exposure, or is that a bit of a struggle, maybe because people are assigning that value of your channel size at the moment?
Yeah, so you raise a good point, and there's a couple things to it. So first, am I exploring collaborations and things? Yes, very much so, particularly in the tool space. I've got a lot of conversations going on in the background with probably not tools you've ever honestly even heard of, tools that advertisers use, but me approaching them going, listen, if you recalibrate this data a little bit, you are going to open yourself up to a whole nother line of business with creators. So working with those tools to maybe create a brand new tool that, heck, I mean, I'll gladly be the face of, but to bring to creators. So yeah, those are happening on the background right now. For me, you know, I look at collaborations a little differently. If I was to have, you know, with Tom at YouTube or Tim Schmoyer, you know, yeah, it's the same audience, and I could likely draft off of a little bit, but I find that those people are going to be very loyal to, you know, they're going to look at it as an or, not an and. And so for me and the people that I look to collaborate with is, what if someone is really good at Adobe Premiere, or is a photographer or something like that? And what value could I provide as a collaborator to say, you know, I'm the science, they're the art, and now together we can provide a really awesome value for creators. So if anybody's watching this and is in that field and wants to do that, that's great. Let's talk. But that's the way I look at a collaboration, through value. it's easy to pick someone in your own space. And sometimes that's very relevant. You should do that, especially to get that exposure. But again, I don't have skin in the game of I'm trying to be a full-time creator. That's why I don't really identify with that term YouTuber. I'm here to provide awesome information that people can use and teach them exactly how to do that. So that's just the way I approach collaborations is, in my vlogging channel, of course, like fellow vloggers and things like that. And that was my hand holding the camera. I don't know, but, that's different. And that's just a different perspective than the analytics guy. So just think about it creative. And to your point earlier, Rob, like how can you provide the most amount of value? Working with someone similar is likely a reach play. How can I increase my reach against the target that I know? But if you really want to provide value to your audience, how can you provide something different that no one else is doing?
Live streams. You're in a live stream now, and you're very articulate and answering questions off the I was going to say dumb piece there, but I hear that term off the top of your head. Have you thought about doing live streams on your own channel? Like Q&A sessions or maybe channel reviews?
Yeah, 100%. Like you mentioned at the beginning of the hour, like 160 something subscribers. So probably once that subscriber number gets up a little higher, I encourage everyone to comment and I will have a dialogue with you. You can tweet at me, you can private message me, and I'll have a one-on-one conversation with as many people as I possibly can. When the subscribers get up a little higher, we'll start doing live streams just so, it's difficult to ask people to drop what they're doing and join this stream, even if it's scheduled out. So I definitely would appreciate that, but I would just want more people to be able to join and benefit from them. So definitely on the roadmap. And once we get the channel up a little bit bigger, we can have those conversations live at scale, 100% going to do it.
Yeah. And the final point, but you have already alluded to the answer of this, is that there's a lack of what I might call hero content on your channel in terms of what a YouTuber would perceive of your channel. But obviously you've talked about you don't really see yourself as a YouTuber. So there's videos about how to get more subscribers or how to get more views or how to increase watch time to bring the audience into your channel to then find those more niche topics that you cover. But I think you've already answered that in that that's not really the goal of your channel. Maybe you want to summarize that.
Sure. Well, first, hero content. What is that for everyone who may not know? So it's a term that says, this is going to be a video that, draws in a lot of people, right? I think there is kind of that help content, which is what I fall into generally. But that hero are going to be the big videos that start to draw people in. I think personally, and this is just my perspective, I've put out some videos that have hero potential, 3 most important metrics, how to get brand deals, major changes on YouTube, things like that. I think it's an exposure thing right now. So those may in time become hero videos. But also, and more importantly, like you said, I'm providing my perspective, and sometimes where I'm either answering a direct question that comes in because I can't explain how valuable I view people's perspective. Something I've started to experiment with in my videos in the description, and I'm testing it, excuse me, kind of not big, as I do a creator spotlight. You can fill out a form that in my videos, kind of like a brought to you by. I'll check out a channel and somebody watches, we'll give you a shout out. It's not guaranteed, and I obviously don't want to promote a channel that I may not agree with, but it's a way to just give back and things like that for people putting in content. But I hope to be more niche. It's not a goal of mine to, right now at least, be millions of subscribers. It's all about information. It's all about value. And sometimes you need to go down to a lower, more tactical level to give the value. I can talk about do keyword research. That's important. Put the right tags in your videos. Okay. But if I'm brand new, how do I do that? Where do I go? What do I look at? What's the science behind it? Does it matter if they're in a certain order or whatever? Do capitals matter? Those are the types of questions that I want to answer because in my opinion, that's providing the most value. I could create a really wide video that has an audience of everyone, but in advertising, in marketing in general, the most effective messages are catered, that are very tailored, very tactical, targeting of specific groups, speaking in a way that they will be receptive to. So I try to make that pull through in my videos with some of the topics that I do, speaking one-on-one with people. To your point earlier, kind of no BS. Let's just get to the point, because your time is valuable. My time is valuable. And I want to give you the information so you can take off and running with this. I don't want to bore you just for 20 minutes so I can accumulate watch time or something like that. This is not the way I am. It's not the way I feel about it.
I'm wondering how many people zoned out there as soon as you said I have a creator spotlight form, and I've rushed off to fill that in now to hopefully feature on your channel, River.
I hope so. You know, I mean, to be perfectly honest, it's a way for me, you know, let's think about the business reasons why I would do that.
Yep.
It helps me engage with people more. If I can have a one-on-one conversation or feature someone and it makes them more loyal, yeah, that's great. You know, that's the secret sauce that no one wants to tell you why they do strategic things, but that's the reality. I want to build connections with people. I want to provide value. And so by doing that, that's a way I can do that. And especially if someone has a message or a particular video that I just love and I want to share, that's the whole premise of our whole platform, is sharing content. So why wouldn't I perpetuate that? So yeah, if you jumped over there and did it, great. I can't wait to watch your content.
Your greatest strength and weakness as a, do I say YouTuber, video creator? Interpret that how you will.
Yeah. I think if I was actualizing myself a little bit, I think that I have a good ability to understand and break things down for people in a way that when I'm engaging in a dialogue, I can interpret for them in a way that I believe will be most understandable. My goal is to never belittle anyone. Never, you know, I've seen creators in the past that literally take pot shots at their subscribers who took the time to comment, and it was a genuine comment. It wasn't a troll. I hope that I never in my career on YouTube do that, because holy cow, I don't mean to ever alienate anyone, but I'm interpreting and empathizing with them based on their question or their concern. And how can I break down a somewhat and sometimes really complex topic in layman terms? You know, I'm an analyst by trade. I retire to the nerdery every day with my calculator. You know, if anybody understands that reference and what movie that is, put that in the chat. But, you know, that's my strength, in my opinion, is interpreting people and really the drive to help others. While on a weakness, I'm an extremely passionate person. I think my wife can probably tell you that more than anyone. I'm the type of person that gets like really excited about something and freaks out, and I act like a child sometimes when I'm so excited. But also when something really gets me going, like gets me upset or impassionate about something, I may jump on and, you know, start scribbling down, like, this is the things I want to talk about and I want to be there, but I have to like back myself off the ledge a little bit. So I think that passion has a potential to get me into trouble sometimes, but which is just the weakness is keeping that in check, and it all comes from a good place. But I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I'm very passionate person. If you've ever seen me talk or speak in front of crowds, which I've done before, I'm very animated and I'm very brash and no BS, and that's just kind of the way I like to do it. But that rubs people some ways.
Who would you say are your YouTube inspirations?
Man, you know, when he was at, it was a pure stumbling situation. When he was at about 50,000 subscribers, or a little less, maybe 20,000 subscribers, I found Peter McKinnon on YouTube, and holy cow, what a talented guy who just is so relatable and so charismatic. And, you know, he has a time and a place that he gets passionate about, but what Peter, don't get me wrong, is a most fantastic, talented photographer, videographer, you name it. But his on-camera presence and relatability, he brings that guard down. And I observe that as a manner to speak on camera and get comfortable on camera. And that is truly inspiring. You know, I pick up on that. I mean, like, his content is fantastic, but yeah, Peter is one of them for sure. Sean McBride, I've had the pleasure of meeting a couple times. So Sean Duras on YouTube. His content is not really my watch anymore. It skews a little young in my interpretation. But his drive, my man is the most genuine man I've ever met in person. I watched him spend like 20 minutes before a talk, like with this kid who worshiped him and made this kid's day. And Sean is huge and he's got so many business adventures, but he's never forgotten that. He sees that child and he remembers what it's like to be like that. And so that understanding, that empathy, that passion, that compassion is something that I draw inspiration from too. So especially when it comes to helping people on the analytics guy, I try to keep that in the back of my mind. Is someone struggling right now? And if I can just produce a video that makes that a little easier, puts them at ease, gives them some information, game over. That's why we do it.
Yeah. vidIQ. Let's move on to the topic of the channel. I assume you are a vidIQ user. Are there any particular tools that are favorites of yours, or how do you incorporate vidIQ into your daily life, considering you are an analytics guy and we have plenty of those?
You have plenty of those, that's for sure. Well, the thing that I use every single day, by default, by the way you have programmed it, is the ribbon that you can get the plugin, the extension at the top. I forget. Can you say the exact name?
Real-time stats bar?
That one.
Yeah.
The real-time stats bar is fantastic because if you're somewhat of a data geek like I am, watching those numbers is great. Now, it's a whole nother topic to like get fixated on them, right? But I love that. I love that I can see and keep in my mind relative, like, okay, views are up right now, and go and understand why. You know, the difference between data and an insight. vidIQ is fantastic at providing data, right? But then how do you reconcile that? What is insightful about that data? That is huge. Not to give away some content that we're doing, but we're going to dive into that on my channel, like the difference between data and insights and how to develop insights, meaning something that is actionable and worth noting. Saying that I had a retention rate of 90% or 80%, like that's not an insight, that's data, right? So I love that. I love how easy it is with the extension in the actual YouTube interface. You don't have to leave the platform. If you want to do keyword research or explore keywords there, it's all right there. It's fantastic. It saves time, which is part of the whole thing, less time. So I use it every single time I upload a video.
That's great. Fantastic to hear. And of course, everybody, if you aren't using vidIQ at the moment, there's a link in the description and you can download it for free. But that is the sales pitch over for another live stream. One piece of advice you would give to any video creator starting on YouTube today, River?
Just do it.
There we go. Simple as that. Yeah, I would absolutely agree. Just get something out there and learn from that. Just do it again. Just do it again, and every time you will learn something.
I'm not a subscriber necessarily to the idea of that, like, gear doesn't matter, because I'm at a point in my creator career that gear very much matters. But when you're first starting out, you have so many things to learn.
Yeah.
So many things, and that's why I say just do it. Everybody's got one of these, and you can start to just create. Just experiment. Try to get a video editor software and experiment with how you'd cut things up. Watch tutorials, watch how-tos. Just do it. It can be a video about literally nothing, because you splicing these shots together for practice sake doesn't have to be anything, and over time you're going to learn. And then you're going to get curious and you're going to experiment, and that is how you grow. You watch someone who does a thing, whatever that is, with their video, and you're like, how do I do that?
Yeah.
You can either ask them or find something online that tells you how to do that, and now you're growing. My favorite thing in the teams and the people that I manage is watching the struggle. I like to empower my guys and gals who work under us that with all of the information, but when they're figuring something out and they can't do it, they're like, I can't do this, I can't figure it out. And they push themselves, and then they figure it out. And they have this euphoric feeling. That right there in that moment is learning. You have learned. And that has been the most exciting thing about YouTube time and time and time again is when you figure out that new thing, or you mastered that software, whatever it is, that has kept me on YouTube for as long as I have, and will perpetuate me on YouTube, hopefully for time to come.
So how's this for 2 catch lines? Do it and you will learn. Build it and there will come. There we are. That's YouTube in a nutshell. Okay. Now River and I were joking beforehand that whether we had any hard deadlines, and like he's good for 3 hours, and I said we're not doing 3 hours, but we're now 1 hour into this, and I still haven't got to the end of my questions. There are just a few more quick fire round questions that I'm going to ask River, and then it's over to you folks. So if you do want to ask River any questions, and as long as River's still okay to stay on the line after my quick fire round, start prepping them, and we'll get some fantastic Q&A going on here. But we're on to the quick fire round now, River, where I ask you a question. I just want you to answer it as quickly as possible, either with one word or one sentence. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's do this. Okay. Other than YouTube, what social media platform do you use the most?
Instagram.
What's your current main video camera and why in one sentence?
The Canon 70D, because it's what I have and not what I want.
What would you be doing if you weren't making YouTube videos? It's kind of a tough question for you to answer.
Hiking.
Favorite sport and which team do you support?
Oh man, that would have to be the MLS and the Portland Timbers FC.
Southsiders, Whitecaps for me. Well, I support someone back in the UK, obviously, but I've been in Vancouver.
Sure.
So there's a bit of a rivalry there. I think, did you knock us out of the playoffs? Was it last year or the year before? I can't remember.
We may or may not have won the Cascadia Cup from you guys.
There you go. Yeah.
Just saying that.
Okay, I'll move on quickly from that question. How much YouTube do you watch a week?
Oh man, I very rarely watch television. I consume almost all of my content via YouTube or video, social video. So I would say probably hours. I mean, probably 10 hours a week or more.
One thing you would change about YouTube right now?
The transparency.
I will skip. Well, I'll ask this question, but you probably don't have an answer. Have you ever told anyone how much you earn from YouTube?
Yeah, and it's not a lot. So
okay. If you could only make one more video, what would it be about?
My grandfather.
Favorite book?
Oh, probably Good to Great.
Favorite movie?
Forrest Gump.
Favorite band and single music?
Oh man, I have the most eclectic music taste in the world. It really depends on the mood. When I was younger, I used to listen to them a lot. I used to love A Day to Remember really a lot.
And who outside your family has had the biggest influence on your life and why?
Well, I would say my wife, just because she astounds me every day. She became my family, so technically she did that before. But honestly, we have a group of creators on YouTube. We go by #VloggerHouse. That's who we're at CVX Live with, and they're just incredibly inspiring individuals that I've never had the pleasure of meeting more fantastic people, and they're all internet friends, which is absolutely amazing. And we've met in real life multiple times.
Just a supplement question: is your wife in earshot when you answered that question? Correct.
She's not here actually.
Okay.
So I maintain the decent husband award for that.
But the cats are listening, and they do have memories.
And they tell.
Okay, so thank you very much, River, for all of the fantastic answers and questions, and I'm sure people have picked up a lot of advice from that. So it's over to the people on the live stream. If you do have a question now, fire it in, and we'll stay on for as long as we humanly can before we run out of energy. Yeah, let's see what's coming in through the chat. So Tom Nash has the questions here. What are your thoughts on Vero as a future platform? Fake or real? Is it just a flash in a pan?
Well, we have seen platforms like that come and go. I think there are certain business decisions that they need to make in order to make their platform viable. As it exists right now, I don't see it as a viable alternative. I position it as an alternative because that's what's drawing people there now.
Mikey Slice asks, we kind of answered this a little bit, but maybe if he wasn't here at that point, is it worth becoming a YouTube certified? I guess that's from a video content as perspective.
In the great words of the one Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots you never take. So there's nothing stopping you from applying. Believe me, it's a ton of work and you will have to study, but you will learn a ton that you can apply to your channel. So I think there's nothing stopping you from applying. I know there is a selection process involved, but then there's absolutely nothing stopping you from going to Creator Studio and using the same study materials that you'd have to use for that certification test. Ashley
Jackson 123 asks, do you have any tips to grow a small channel?
Watch the analytics guy. No, in all
and vidIQ. Just let me get that.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, my two favorite metrics in YouTube that people can focus on and learn and test off of with your content are retention rate and watch time. If you're focusing on those, your channel will naturally start to grow over time, because that means you're gonna have to pay attention to what you're saying and you're talking about, what people are receptive to or not, and how to get people to watch all of your videos, because that's how you trigger the algorithm. I mean, everybody pretends to know what the algorithm is doing, and even YouTube has acknowledged that they don't know exactly what the algorithm does all the time, but those two things have been told time and time again that those are the things that increase. Twitch, a side note, the analytics beta has removed retention rate, which I have a massive problem with, and submitted a massive feedback list for them. But in any case, use the classic one and focus on those metrics.
Sido YT asks how to bring in sponsorships. I think you've got a very good answer for this one.
Yeah. The first thing is make sure you're advertiser friendly. So, you know, I would say the vast majority of brands do not want to, even if you have to ask the question, is this compromising for brands? The answer is probably yes, because it's on the bubble. If you're doing that, number one, that's in a good spot. The second thing is develop a media kit. We've got a few videos on our channel. I know there's several other creators that have taken a stab at that, even the Creator Studio, the Creator Academy. That is what you need. So this is your opportunity to say, this is what I bring to the table. This is what I have to offer. You don't have to wait for brands to reach out to you either. Reach out to them. Give them a value proposition. This is my idea for a video, and I think you're perfect, and this is how you benefit from it. Again, benefit, value. It doesn't, you know, micro influencers is the term that in the ad industry that they're using right now, which are people who are not the gigantics of the platforms that brands are now looking to work, because you have a hyper niche audience and they're receptive to that. So create that media kit, make sure you're advertiser friendly.
No Taker Gamer, why do legitimate creators get stuck in obscurity while children get thousands of views? I'm always curious. These always feel like sort of a bit narrow-minded questions where you're sort of not looking at the whole picture of YouTube, and you're sort of seeing one example and trying to spread it out across the whole platform.
Well, it's easy, you know, like Ryan's toy review and why is this growing? Well, you're not the audience, so you may not understand exactly why people enjoy that content. The fact is that there are people that do enjoy that audience and or that content. And I think having maybe some empathy in terms of what they believe is the value proposition on another channel, and honestly, what you can learn from it, what structurally, maybe not the content itself, but the format, is that particularly insightful, or is there something about that people are having positive responses to that you can learn from? So in terms of why those channels do really well, I think you could ask that same question of any channel that's doing really well, if you don't understand the content and you're not the audience.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Whether or not you like Logan Paul or Jake Paul, watch their content and try and understand from a storytelling perspective, the way they edit their footage, see what fundamentals you can take from that content and adapt it to your own. What else have we got here? Oh, Max Mike, should I clickbait since it seems to be the only viable way to get attention on YouTube these days?
No. The YouTube has started to take more serious stances on this, that if you are clickbaiting people, they will penalize you in search and discovery.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what the video I put out recently was called, but I actually went through some of the blog updates. So that was in the wake of Logan Paul's demonetization of his channel. They went through and quantified the things that are these bad actors that they want to do. Now, clickbait by definition is 100% desirable. You want someone to feel that they should click on your thumbnail. And with these new metrics that are coming out with impressions and click-through rate, that's how we're going to deliver on that. And you'll learn what is effective for your thumbnails. Now, I think it all has to do with the intent, encouraging someone to click in a positive manner or malice in the intent to deceive are different. And yes, it's the same outcome of someone clicking, but if YouTube, in their interpretation, it doesn't matter what you think, in their interpretation that you're trying to deceive someone, they could penalize you in search and discovery for that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how the impressions and click-through rate prove to people how search and discovery is not purely decided by whether content is monetized or not.
I'm honestly worried, just if I can elaborate on that for a second, because what that will do is it will prove that clickbait works at driving the click. And what that does to encourage a creator is dangerous, because that is not consistent with what YouTube has been voicing. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to have creators get really confused and say, listen, I'm learning from this data and I'm doing more of what it's telling me is working, but yet I'm being penalized. So I really do think you have to look through that lens of what is the intent of how YouTube is interpreting that. So just be careful, everyone, as that data comes available.
River, should someone that has a channel not related to YouTube stuff get certified?
If you have a YouTube channel, yeah, there's several different certifications. The big one that comes to mind that would be really beneficial just right off the bat has to do with channel growth. If you weren't with us in the beginning, there were 4 and now 3 certifications. One is content ownership, asset monetization, and then channel growth. I think everyone can benefit from the channel growth information that's out there. So yeah, I mean, you definitely can benefit.
I just want to say, the Teven Show, you asked a really good question, but it went off the chat. And so if you could just post it again, I definitely want to ask that to River, if you can do that. Pat Hollandland, this is one of the problems with Livestream when you can't read out usernames. So I'm just going to call them Patsy. Do you think you should follow trends or just do your own thing?
I think that you should always be true to yourself in what you would like to produce, because that's what's going to motivate you to produce it. However, there are seasonal trends using things like Google Trends data to capture. So if you are really passionate about a certain thing that comes out at a certain time every year, look at that data and find out when the demand starts to increase for those types of topics. And then you can plan when to deploy your content at the right time and take advantage of that content swing when that's increasing. So I think there's 100% benefit of doing that, but it has to be something that you're passionate about or interested in, or your audience is interested in, some combination of those, because you need to be motivated to take advantage of those trends.
Tom Nash asks, do you think that YouTube as a competitor in the scheduled broadcast TV sphere is going to happen, or is broadcast dead anyway? I think I've asked that question right.
I think they're referring mostly to YouTube TV.
Yeah.
To which this has been a trend in the media world for quite some time. You see on demand kind of first and TiVo migrating to the creation of platforms like Sling TV, YouTube TV, which has what the essence of what they're doing is it's a la carte. I'm going to pay for what I care about rather than the 400 channels that cost a ton and I don't watch all but 4 of them. I think that is the direction in which the world is going, more programmatic, right? So that I definitely think YouTube has already made a dent in the market share of some of those other cable providers or things like that. I don't think that those like the networks in general are going to die. I think they'll evolve for sure. But I think we'll see some of them go away for sure. It'll be interesting to watch.
People are now starting to drive your content. Culp Fiction says, I'd love to see a video specifically on clickbait on your channel. So getting tips there on future videos. Pandil, do you think this is a good idea if you keep videos at 5 minutes or less when you are just starting? So maybe a general question about video duration.
Good question. I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. I think if it is a deterrent, in my opinion, that if you have a video that is an hour long, with the exception to the live stream reviews, someone go, "Ooh, I'll watch that later," because I don't have time right now. To which they may or may not watch it later. So what I like, in particular about my content, what I encourage with yours, this is my perspective, is give them what they need. If you're providing how-to information, give it to them. Don't beat around the bush just to keep them on board. If you're providing entertainment content, just a vlog or whatever it is, use your best judgment. Look at the data, look at how long people are sticking around. If people are sticking around for 20 minutes on your content, keep doing that, because you're going to get the watch time. And if you want to insert ad insertions or things like do it, keep it going. I think just make educated decisions, prove it out in the data. Don't go on feelings, use data.
The Teven Show is back with this question. Google using voice, written word, and image recognition to rank and promote your videos on YouTube. I'm not sure what the question is there, but any thoughts on that, on this new area of written word and image recognition?
Yeah, so I think they're just talking about maybe innovative ways that you can come up and search. Yes, I think that is going to be something, all of that, which is even more important to generate the metadata in your videos. So titles, descriptions, tags, captions are all things that YouTube can utilize as metadata to provide a searcher the most relevant video that they believe they're looking for. So if there's ever an image search for something and it happens to be in your thumbnails, you can take advantage of that. If there's someone voice to text searching for, on devices that are smart, that I will remain unnameless so they don't obnoxiously turn on right now, those are ways that we can start to search for things and definitely take advantage of. But it all comes down to is the metadata exists. YouTube can only provide a recommended video for something it knows what it is.
Technical Neil, why do 99% of my views come from non-subscribers?
Well, so that is a not uncommon problem that most smaller or even channels that haven't really hit their value proposition yet. I think that sometimes, and I just I put out a video recently about this, just ask them, subscribe to my channel. So I can't tell you how many times I'll be actually watching a video as a viewer and they'll be like, hey, if you like this video, give it a like. And I'm like, oh yeah. And I'll go and because sometimes people just need to be reminded, if you like this, give me some love. So don't be afraid to ask for the subscribe. Don't beat them over the head with that, saying it all the time, which goes with merchandise too. Don't beat that up. But, ask, have maybe a card that slides in or an animation or, something to remind them to subscribe. But also, if you're focusing on the content that you like and care about and find others who feel the same, the subscribers will start to come and evaluate your data to find out what people are being most receptive to and do more of that. And then you'll get the subscribe.
And I would just add to that the fluctuations can be that if a lot of your videos come from search and discovery, where people aren't subscribed, and maybe they're just wanting to find out one thing, like a tutorial where they're not necessarily interested in the channel or the personality behind it, and it fixes an issue or it answers a question and then they're one and done. That can be why you have less subscribers. So then it becomes the case of you're trying to build up the personality, the brand, and the consistency, and give reasons for people to revisit your content.
The other thing that goes with what we were talking about earlier with the channel art and other videos, if you made one video that's about a thing and it's actually kind of not related to the rest of your channel and your art, if someone went to your channel, they're like, oh, this must just be like a drop in the bucket of something that you did. and not what you're about. So I don't want to subscribe. So consider that too.
Flyrides asks, do you have analytics on podcasts as well? Curious about the rise of voice lately.
Yeah, podcasts are so interesting. Even in my professional life, there's not a ton of data there. Most podcast platforms will be able to provide you information around like downloads or plays or completes, things like that. You typically have to use either a third party for some of those, or you have to use the data that is at the platform's disposal. So if you are one who is posting podcasts, you'll get access to some information, but it's actually just still such a new media that especially with privacy standards in Europe in May, we're going to look at GDPR changing. So how people track certain things and how that affects the world. So I think it's just a matter of time before someone starts to track it more in depth. But right now it is, you're right, fairly limited.
And the last question here, Tom Nash asks, voice search SEO is becoming huge. Could you speak about the differences between classic search versus voice search? For example, natural speech versus search partial sentences.
So you're getting into more of what I would interpret as the paid search realm, right? So it's using the same methodology that AdWords uses, which is how they buy videos or ads on YouTube and also in Google search, using things like exact match. So it's looking exactly what someone typed and does someone want to bid on that in paid search, or in this case, promote a video based on that exact video title, what someone's asking for, or broad match, which could mean with modifiers of it includes this word that it analyzed. And so if that's the word YouTube, or if that's the word views or subscribers, it may modify and bring up videos that include those with a number of other signals. So in search, it uses things like quality scores that YouTube assigns to different web pages and content and things like that. Given that that is a Google property and how as it applies to YouTube, I think we can absolutely count on them using that same technology. So to be inclusive of certain terms, and when you do your keyword research, really looking at the search volumes that are happening in the space. What are people saying in order to put those and seed those into your content?
And that is why, everyone, River should do live streams on his own channel, because all of this is golden stuff. And it's just always fantastic to talk to you, River. And yeah, I just appreciate you coming on here and just being willing to have any question thrown at you and just firing back with awesome answers.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Where can we find you on the internet?
Well, you can find me on YouTube at The Analytics Guy. On Twitter, you can find me at Yo Analytics Guy. Take all the questions that you'd love to give me. I'll try my hardest to give you answers.
And we'd absolutely love to have you back on vidIQ at some time in the future. River, it just leaves me to say thank you very much for going half an hour over what we were planning to do, and we're halfway to half an hour, but I think it's time we all had a bit of a rest here on the West Coast. Maybe got some fresh air, had some lunch, that type of thing.
Perfect.
I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Here's like the algorithm pitch here, and if you want to subscribe to vidIQ for more interviews and fantastic tips on how to grow your channel in less time, then please do so. As always, enjoy the rest of your video making day. I will be back with the Friday feeling tomorrow, and we'll see you then again soon. Bye for now.